I'm Dean Tribble. I am CEO of Agoric. I'll hide over here so you can see the beautiful slides. Agoric is a Cosmos-based blockchain, common BFT, for doing smart contracts in JavaScript, particularly for dealing with the cross-chain, multi-chain, asynchronous world. And so I'm going to talk a lot about what that brings to the chain abstraction table. But first I want to celebrate some success, because a lot of what we're now faced with is a problem created by an important milestone on the way to real value to the world. And, we do that, but we've got all these different systems, chains, tokens, applications, etc., that are solving various problems that are now connected with protocols like IBC, all these different interconnect protocols, cross-chain protocols, wormholes, gateway, Axelar, etc., that create these connected islands of functionality and islands of assets that are worth collectively, I think yesterday it was $2.2 trillion, of liquidity spread across all these different services. And that's a marvelous success that we should be really happy about. But it creates this new environment where what do users get? And you heard these examples earlier, right? Fragmented liquidity. It's $2.2 billion with $1 million here and $1 million there, and pretty soon you're talking real money. They get no clear entry point, right? If a user comes up and they've got 3 choices, they can make that. When they get 1,000 choices from 1,000 applications and 1,000 chains, the answer is I'm going to go back to my Web 2 thing, I'll pick Robinhood. And they get a poor user experience, right? Every action they might want to take requires 6 signatures if they want to do anything that's cross-chain. It requires them to do a research project to put these kinds of things together to figure out how they can safely participate in this ecosystem. And what they want is not, the moral equivalent of, I'm about to use an app. Does it run on Amazon or does it run on Azure Cloud? I'm not sure. I should pick one. It's like, no. Users want seamless access to multi-chain liquidity. They don't care where it is. They want their assets. If it's in, that yield pool or that AMM, wherever it is, it's my assets and I don't care what chain it's on. They want a uniform entry point. Yeah, maybe there's a couple, but they want to be able to go in and access all these things in a simple way, right? And they want simple user experiences. When I go to, I pull out my phone, click a button, and have a hamburger delivered, right? I'm not thinking about all of the currency transactions. I don't have to move my money from my bank to the intermediate pair that's going to escrow it until the driver says yes. I don't do any of that. I push a button and hamburger arrives. That's the kind of user experience that users want. And so, providing that user experience is the chain abstraction view, right? It is that, going from the crypto chaos of 1,000 potential entry points and 1,000 applications to a simple, unified view with access to digital assets and services seamlessly across multiple chains, right? That's what chain abstraction is. It's the vision of what the user wants, what the user needs, and what we need to provide to them in order for this to matter at a much larger scale in the world. But that's hard to implement. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Agoric's approach is orchestration. That is the capabilities to build user-friendly apps that coordinate all these assets and services, right? And the coordination of these things in this connected but asynchronous world is the thing that's challenging. So let's take the simple case, right? I've got dollars burning a hole in my ETH. And I want TIA, Celestia's token that came out recently, and I want to stake it. Right? Should be straightforward. And there's a gazillion different applications where the user interface to actually do that turns out to be hard. Right? Because I've got to first onboard my money, then I'm going to swap, I've got to move it over to the swap machine that I'm going to use, and I have to figure out which of the several ones are going to be used. Some of them include moving the money across, some of them include delivering it to my destination, but none of them include helping me to set up to stake it. Right? I've got multiple wallets because some of it's on ETH and some of it's on Cosmos or Solana or whatever it is, and I've got to use all these different things. And then I have to do my own staking. Some of them include some of the transfers. I've got to put it all together. And each one of these is a research project that the user has to engage in, fearing at any step that they screw up, they'll lose everything. Right? And people are working on this, right? As you've heard, right? We understand that this is a problem we need to solve, and there's a bunch of great stuff going on, but they don't have the tools to solve it well. It's hard. It's a hard problem because of the asynchronous nature, and so they don't have the tools to solve it well. Until now, or particularly March. So the orchestration API is Agoric's technology to enable easily coordinating these assets and services across different chains. And I'll talk a little bit about it. So I always like having code in my presentations because we are a developer community, right? Cypherpunks are code. So let's start with, by the way, this is familiar JavaScript, except it's executing on-chain, right? We're executing deterministic JavaScript reliably on a blockchain. This is I want to take $1,000. I'm just going to go through this scenario, and I'm going to want to put it into a Celestia account that is controlled by this smart contract on my behalf. I don't want to go make a Celestia account. I don't know. I don't have the tools. I don't have the gas fees. I don't have all the pieces I want. Smart contract should do that for me, right? So that's what this does. And once that's done, and before we go on to this next line, once I've reached across in this line of code, reached across IBC over to Celestia and said, hey, make an account that I control. And I get back a JavaScript object in my JavaScript program running on chain that gives me unique and exclusive access and control to that account. Okay? And my smart contract sits there. And if that takes 2 seconds, great. If that takes 10 minutes, great. If that takes 2 weeks, great. Once that answer comes back, I've got its unique exclusive control of its account, then I want to set up to send my money. Okay? And I'll presume here I've already got my money moved to Noble, and I can talk about how it got there, but that's outside the scope here. I'm going to set up using a feature that happens to be available, almost universally in the IBC ecosystem. I'm going to set up a multi-hop transfer that says, abstractly, go to Osmosis and swap for Tia, right? Swap for Celestia's code. And then when you're done, send it over to this ICA account that I just created on the line before, that happened, 10 minutes ago. And send that. And then wait for that to be done. And once that's done, where the USDC came from Noble, which is native USDC and Cosmos, over to Osmosis, got swapped for Tia, and then sent over to my account on Celestia. Once that's done, then I'm gonna get the balance, find out how much did I get, how much arrived on Celestia, and once that comes back, and that's a cross-chain query, that does all the verification, goes over IBC, uses ICP, all this sort of stuff. And once that's done, then stake it. Okay? And all of that happens, after I push a button, I'm off to get a beer. Right? All that happens asynchronously, however long it takes, updating the status, tracking all these things across whatever it is, 4 different chains, in order to make my push button get Tia user scenario work. And at the end, the hamburger's delivered. No, wait, the Tia is delivered, and I've got to stake. And if I wanted to add the next phase, once the staking is done, take that stake, stake that Tia, get me some ST Tia on Stride, take that over to Agoric, put it into a vault, make the vault, mint the stable token IST that the protocol provides, take that IST over to another chain, swap it for more Tia, come back here, stake that, and do that around until I've resolved my thing, and I've now doubled down on Tia for the airdrop that's starting tomorrow, right? That should all be a push button, and the software just does that, right? Computers have been doing this stuff in the 70s. Why is it taking us so long to do it? And the answer is, asynchronous programming is hard until you've got this simple ability to have long-lived, durable processes that can do messaging to other chains, await the answer, and respond to it, right? So what we've got is that infrastructure with multi-block actions, right? If you've got a smart contract and it does any off-chain action, if it does even a message to another contract, you're not done for that transaction. You're not done for that block. It's going to be another block before you can proceed because you need to see what happens on that other chain and the answer comes back, right? So that means everything that you do that is multi-chain is fundamentally async, is fundamentally multi-block, and so you want a computational model that covers it. And that deals with the async. You've got reactive contracts. Answer comes back. Now I can react to it. Now I can proceed. Right? IBC hooks is a good start, but just being able to say, here's what I want to do when I get the answer to this, turns out to be amazingly empowering. And it's what developers in Web 2 have been used to for the last 10, 20 years. Right? That is the standard approach. And then finally, because it's JavaScript, the power of JavaScript is not just, it's not just the most popular programming language on the planet because it's JavaScript. It's because it allows you to make frameworks and components and extend them yourself. And so that same infra where I just say, wait until the reply comes back, you've got a timer service, where I can say wait until 3 p.m., right? If you're doing a travel service where you're doing, purchase stuff when, price comes above whatever it is, waiting 24 hours after the purchase so you know that it transitions into the now I've got the lockdown state, or waiting however long in order to, something that's time-based, straightforward, on-chain, it's just, a wait dot, 15 milliseconds, right? The time is 15 milliseconds. And that same extensibility lets developers out there add libraries, right? So I can build on top of that ICA, that interchain accounts abstraction. I can control an account on another chain. I can set up an XLR account, send GMP requests to it in order to be able to make requests off to Filecoin or Aave or wherever. I can build an abstraction on top of that, such that the same way I have an osmosis swap that's built on ICA, I can have a deposit on Aave that's built on XLR, that's built on ICA, that's built on IBC, that's built on all this chain stuff. From the JavaScript programmer's point of view, send to Aave away, and it's just simple orchestration of all these activities across all these services and all these chains. Okay, so there are several places where different services, different components fit in, right? Tokens are part of an orchestration infrastructure, right? You gotta have the nodes in order to play a symphony, right? You gotta have the assets that someone wants to move around and put into a curve on another chain, or put into a lending protocol, and so tokens are part of it. Fungible, non-fungible, whatever, right? Services, right? If you're a lending protocol, great, someone can use their app and do lending on you of the tokens that are there. But if a smart contract on the system can unbond stuff, and when it's done, send it over to you to borrow against, now you've got much richer abstractions, you've got much richer ability to do, for example, multi-chain portfolio management, and that's what. And finally, infra, right? Lots of people here are building infra, whether that's bridges and connectivity, oracles, indexers, RPCs, all those kinds of things are important infra that you want to be able to absorb into an asynchronous system and easily use interleaved with all these actions that I already showed. And so everyone here participates is part of orchestration and also benefits from it, right? It is a good thing to have chain abstraction views that can include your components, and it's a good thing to have your components help build better, simpler user abstractions. And so this is one of those things where people can now come build these things. We're launching a hackathon, 75K in prizes, focus on these interoperability, multi-chain, chain abstraction use cases built with orchestration, with multiple tracks around the different layers of the system, and it'll be a virtual hackathon over 45 days in early Q2. So these are the kinds of things where we want real projects building real things that they've been challenged by the tools they had available. This gives them a whole other tool set and a whole other programming capability that they can bring to the table to solve the problem that they were solving. And build things like, stablecoin yield maximizer, something on that, cross-chain vaults where I can lock tokens up on that chain and use their economic power over on some other chain instead of having to bring them across. Staking manager, that simple case of, I've got assets here and I want to stake there, or I've got staked tokens, unbond them, and 2 weeks from now when that's done, go buy that thing. Right, go swap it for some other token and go stake it, right? Just being able to manage that and automate that has these delays, where humans are suck at following up on these things, set it up once, push a button and you're done. And just sign it once, right? One signature enables these multi-chain, multi-account actions. And then, contract swap aggregator, right? What matters right now to people is TVL. What will matter in the future is TVA, total value accessible. Right? It doesn't matter if you're going to asynchronously access assets in your contract. It doesn't matter if they're right next to you or are they, one hop away over on Osmosis or on ShadeSwap or AstroPort or any of these things. We want to be able to talk about that aggregate liquidity and do interesting value delivered to the user about that aggregate liquidity, and stop talking to them about precisely, what web server the application they're trying to use is, right? They're on their app, they just want to push a button and get a hamburger. You need to stop talking about the make of the deals. So these are examples where we want people to come build them and help build the multi-chain. Come to the hackathon and help us all build this thing. Thank you very much.